Welcome to From Head to Heart and Home. We're so delighted that you can be here today and listen to our conversation. This is a channel created by women, empowering women to take intentional action in creating the life that you want, with your host, Carla Center, subconscious healer, and myself, Shanda Soretti, certified coach. So, this morning, we have something really exciting that we want to share with you guys, and it's the idea that once we arrive to wherever it is we think we're going to arrive, then we will be carefree. So, as we were talking about before we pressed record on this, I believe that this is a beautiful reminder that as a coach, as a leader, as a healer, we get to remind ourselves of. I also believe that as a coach, a healer, a leader, it is also our responsibility to remind our clients and anybody and everybody of this beautiful reminder as well. So, Carla, without further ado, why don't you dive right in and let's see where this leads today?
Okay, I'd love to. Yeah, it's like we have, excuse me, we have this idea that we hit a goal. This is like it's not a, we don't see it as a life of journey and growing and growth. Like there's one spot, we hit it, and then everything's joyful. But there's no other evolving, learning times where we get to practice what we've learned to
Mm,
get there. It's we put on these glasses on like this is the thing, but if you think about it, if you have all of it the same all the time, you don't really feel the joy. It's like the space where we are before, where we're just picking the same thing over and over again, and it's numb. It's comfortable, but it's numb. And this growth, to find the joy, there's growth. There's the
mm,
polarities. That's just the way it is.
mhm,
Without, I have a t-shirt that says, and my kid read it the other day, without tears, there would be no rainbows.
mm,
So it's like the growth that happens if you watch nature, you've got to have the rain to have the beautiful blossoms. It takes the two together. It's not just we've arrived, it's always going to stay this one way. If it does, then we feel bored and stagnant.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of like being human, right? No matter where we arrive, right? There's no final destination, but sure, we could say that there are points that we arrive to, meaning we hit a goal or we accomplish something, something like that. But there's never going to be a time in our lives where we are free of uncomfortable feelings, uncomfortable thoughts, right? That's just part of it, like you were saying, Carla. And I believe that it's like the idea that once we get to where we think we're going to get to, everything changes. Like everything shifts, like almost like walking through a portal or through a door where things are suddenly different. And it's not that way. I think maybe sometimes there are really drastic shifts that do happen, and maybe you wake up the next day and things seem different. But what I love to encourage people to think about is that we do not change, right? Like as the human that we are, we don't change. We already have everything inside of us. We're simply reconnecting to those things. And I like to say, like, remembering who we are, reconnecting to who we are. So we're not changing so much as we are like becoming more aware of and remembering, right? And to kind of take that a little bit further, it's like when we think we're not going to feel these uncomfortable feelings anymore or have negative thoughts, yeah, that can be really discouraging when you do start to think and feel them, right? Because we do ride these waves of feeling kind of like high, like when things are going well. And along with the high will also come kind of like, I'm not going to say a low, but where it'll peter out a little bit. And if you're not open to that being part of your experience, then like I said, you could kind of become a little bit demotivated and thinking like, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong? Something's not working. I broke it, and you can go into that kind of the downward spiral. But I will share super vulnerably, and I already told Carla this the other day. when we're on the precipice of like creating something new or doing something new, fear will come in, doubt will come in because we don't have yet this certainty of the thing working out the way we want it to and all these things. So the other day, I'm on in the process of creating some new stuff. And the other day, I found myself kind of waking up and feeling this like doubt. And doubt's not something that I normally feel every day. It comes and goes, but it's not usually like a main emotion that I feel every day. And so I felt really kind of overwhelmed with it and a little bit taken back by it. So I set out and did my morning practice like I do every morning, and I went out for my walk in nature. We live out in the middle of the woods, which we're so blessed to live where we live. And I decided, okay, you know what? We have so many tools in our toolbox and we can even make up tools. And so I was like, I'm just going to do this thing where I'm calling it the I am walk. And I am going to
Mhm.
set out on my walk. And the whole time that I'm walking, I am going to speak out loud and say, I am capable. I am strong. I am smart. I am beautiful. I am whatever comes to mind. And sometimes it didn't even make sense. Like I would say, like, I am water. I am fluid, whatever it was. It didn't matter. I didn't judge it. I just let it come out. And I did that for the full 30, 35 minutes of my walk. And I will tell you, even by the end of the walk, things that I hadn't said yet were still coming out. Yes, there was repetition, but there were still new things emerging. And I was like, ooh, I haven't said that one yet. And I started getting excited. And by the time I got home, I noticed myself, even probably for like an hour after, I was still saying in my head and out loud, I am statements. And it shifted my energy so powerfully. And I just, again, Carla and I are all about sharing in vulnerable, like sharing our vulnerability with you and being authentic. And again, it's our responsibility to show you and mirror to you that you're not the only one that experiences these things. Even us doing what we do, the type of work we do, we still experience these uncomfortable emotions and feelings. We just learn to, first of all, become aware of them a lot sooner and then use the tools, putting them into action like immediately to kind of solving for whatever is coming up that we want to shift.
Right. And we also, if there's something coming up, if there's a theme amongst our clients, we take a look at our own because
Hmm.
it does come back for us. And some of the times you'll notice it, like say there's something you haven't done in a long time that you this uncomfortableness and these patterns you've worked super hard and they're not on a normal basis part of your life anymore. And then it'll sneak back in. But you have the
Yeah.
awareness now. And those uncomfortable things are going to come up, but it's more growth and there is more joy on the other side of it. There's so much. I mean, think about where you were a year ago, 2 years ago. It's totally different. And without those uncomfortable things, you wouldn't have wanted to dredge forward and make those shifts and changes. And it's just, we're always evolving, just like our kids. You watch your kids and they change and they grow. And they're all happy. They don't know how to walk or any of that stuff. Next thing they're walking and they're excited. And then they're going to run. And it's all the same thing where we have these little moments of challenges.
Yeah.
But the next step is like, so like, wow. And then, but there's a little uncomfortable as it goes. Even when you first arrive, you're going to have some of those backs. And
Hmm.
it's a reminder, hey, this is new things that I'm doing. And while it's been part of my life and my pattern up until now, I've moved forward, they can come up and I get to make the choice to stay over here instead of
Yeah.
slide backwards.
Yeah, I mean, bringing up the fact that we do have setbacks is really, really, really important because we do. It's like if we can think of our brain only being able to hold so much information at one time, and I like that's what it is with kids. Anybody who has kids, when your kids were really little and learning all of these things, it'd be like one day it was like your child forgot, literally forgot how to do something, and that's exactly what happens. They can only retain so much information, and so can we as adults. We can recall and remember, but that's why sometimes it's like we almost need a top up, right? We need to like top up some of the activities or exercises or mindset work healing that we've done, because sometimes we're like, oh, that thing has worked really well. This is done now. I'm going to put it up on the shelf. I'm done with that piece. It's done. But it's never really done, right? There's always things working in the background. And like Carla said, sometimes things fall off the shelf and you're like, what the heck happened? I don't even know what is that? And then you got to do the work to kind of fix it, clean it up, maybe even repair it and put it back. But it's those challenges and those setbacks that make the wins feel even better and even bigger, right? So again, going back to the kind of the contrast, like you were talking about at the beginning, Carla, is like without the challenges and the obstacles and the setbacks, we wouldn't appreciate the wins and the growth nearly as much. And for those of you who are doing any type of this work, please acknowledge and appreciate every step of the way. Every single step of the way is so crucial and important, and we get to, witness that and presence that for ourselves. The other thing that I wanted to mention was around kids. I love that you brought up kids because I had made a note. And I was talking to a client just today, and we were talking about emotions, oddly enough. And what I said was that if we can think of our emotions like a classroom full of kids, right? We're the teacher, we're at the front of the class, we're teaching the class, right? We're picking and choosing and selecting, right? We're the leader. And then you look out to all the children. Let's look at them as emotions sitting in these chairs. Sometimes you have the disruptive kid. Sometimes you have the kid that's sleeping. Sometimes somebody who's reading a book, hiding it under his desk. You have all these different things happening. And when kids are being disruptive, they just want attention. So when our emotions are being disruptive, they only want our attention. So a really simple thing to do sometimes, and it doesn't work every time. Like sometimes you have to go a little bit further, but the first step is acknowledging the emotion that you're actually feeling. So let's just say anxiety comes up. Instead of trying to suppress it and ignore it, just like trying to ignore a child who's misbehaving in a classroom, he's just going to, or she's just going to continue to misbehave until they get the desired outcome, which is the attention. Same with your
Right.
emotion. So if you can be like, okay, this is anxiety. I'm experiencing anxiety right now. Sometimes it just takes that to help it dissipate a little bit. And then, depending on how strong the anxiety is to begin with, you can go a little bit further and actually work on processing the emotion. But I just kind of wanted to do that little analogy because I think it's a pretty interesting visual and it's so true, where sometimes it's only acknowledging and presencing from a place of authenticity how we're actually feeling in those moments that will almost soothe and eradicate how we're actually feeling,
Right.
right? It's like your body wants to be seen and heard, just like a child wants to be seen and heard, just like we do, right?
Right, exactly. And sometimes say that you've done really well, you've arrived at this place and your relationships are so much better. And then somebody from your past comes into your life and they know you as the other way that you
Hmm.
were. And that's another where the uncomfortable feelings come in because they don't know you in that way and you don't know the relationship in the space you're at.
Right.
Uncomfortable feelings come up then often because you have this, oh no, what if they maybe they don't like me, or maybe you're just like, I don't know how I'm going to interact with them because who I was in our
Mhm.
interactions is no longer who I am.
Yeah. It's like they haven't met this part of you yet, right? This is a new part that you've integrated and kind of brought online, right? And so it's like, what if we simply get to introduce them to that part instead of coming from a place of fear and oh no, we can be like, ooh, this is kind of exciting. They get to meet this new part. Because I'll actually tell you from personal experience, I have had that experience where somebody judged me and they were like, this is not who you are. And I was like, pardon me, but we haven't seen each other for years. And trust you me, if you knew me 15 years ago to today, I show up and I behave in a much different way. And so, of course, they didn't know me like that and they didn't think that I was being myself. But I'm like, I'm more myself than I have ever been, right? They thought that I was pretending or trying too hard. Now, like this was multiple years ago now, but they at that time they thought that I was trying too hard. And it was like, no, actually, which is the most beautiful thing. It was like I was trying too hard back then. I wasn't being myself back then. I was trying to fit into a mold back then. I am not doing that anymore. So I love that you say that, Carla. It's like we get to teach people how to treat us, and sometimes it's going to take work to
Yeah.
enable that. And the other side of it too is that sometimes we get to let relationships go, and it's okay, right? Sometimes, like, I believe that everybody comes into our life for a reason, and that doesn't always mean forever, right?
Right.
People come and go in and out of our lives, and everybody brings us something and shows us something about who we are. And sometimes when they fulfilled that agreement, is what we call it, then you just naturally separate, and it's totally fine.
Right, because how you were with your masks on is what they needed out of the relationship.
Right.
We have to realize that sometimes what we needed in the relationship and what they needed in the relationship has changed. And now that we're being our authentic self, it doesn't mesh, and that's okay. And we're going to have the uncomfortable as we make the boundaries. And the no guilt, shame, obligation to keep relationships. Like Shanda said, stuff came in for a reason. It doesn't make us a bad person if it's no longer the right relationship for us. It was at the time for a reason. And those uncomfortable things are going to come up, even though you've gotten to this new place. Like Shanda said, she was in a totally different space. Me too. Oh my gosh. I was a total people pleaser, the enabler. And when you're not like that, some people are very uncomfortable and they're like, I got a, oh, you're being assertive kind of message from somebody. And they were
Mm,
very upset because I wasn't the people pleasing enabler that I had been for the however
right.
many. It
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, and sorry, I don't mean to cut you off there. It's like they don't know from that point when they see this side of you, it's like they don't know where they stand, right? It's like meeting somebody for the first time almost, right? Everything you once thought you knew has been updated. And so it's interesting because it has nothing to do with you as the person who's expanded. It has everything to do with the other person who no longer knows how to relate to you anymore, right? Because
Right.
we compartmentalize everything. And so we put people in, and we're put in boxes. This is how so and so, this is what so and so, this is what you can expect, this is what they always do. So we get to teach people, we get to retrain people how to interact with us. And again, it's not always easy, but it's super powerful. I know you've probably had the same situation happen before where people have judged you because you've changed or something's different. And it's like, yes. And that's a great thing, right? That I have evolved and that I've come from these places where I remember not being as lit up or happy or connected as I am now. But that's not always an easy pill for people to swallow, especially if they've known you since you were like younger. I find those are the hardest, the most challenging situations are is the longer the people have known you for, right? Yeah.
Right. And the ones that haven't been around you as you're doing the shifting, you can tell who you were authentic with and who you used masks with, because
Mm,
I have some friends from the past that like we pick up right where we were. And
yeah.
because the way I was with them was very authentic, because I wasn't the anxious people pleaser. And so you get to see that those are those uncomfortable moments. Relationships, some of them feel really great, and even if you are doing, say, your partner and you are doing great because you've done so much growth, there'll be moments when it still is uncomfortable. Either you guys are hitting a new space for growth, or one of you is just not in the same space. You've gone back to some of your old patterns and you can feel it. It's just, life isn't like you take a happy pill and that's the way it is. Do we
Mm.
still can look, no matter how great your gratitude is, any of that, there's always those moments of slide.
Right. Yeah. And I think in those moments, whether it's us experiencing someone else or someone experiencing us, whether it's a partner or a friend or someone from your past, regardless, that is when we need to invite love in more than ever, right? And not judge this other person and not make this other person wrong, and really just try to come from a place of compassion and empathy. And it's like wanting to learn about that other person, right? Wanting to understand that other person, letting go of your defense mechanisms, letting go of your need to justify and explain, and trying to understand the other person. That is like golden. And I'm telling you, that will be received much differently than the latter.
Right. Right, because the way you got to where you are, pretty much anybody, you learn to have the love, compassion, and understanding with yourself to get to where you are. And you get to have that with other people. The
Yeah.
same thing. To have that beauty, that joy, it takes compassion. It takes not judging and just understanding that there are moments that feel icky, and that's just the way it is. No judgment, no like, um, I'm a horrible person because I did this. I thought I was past that. And the same
Mm.
for them because, especially if it's somebody you haven't seen in a long time, sometimes they're just having the bad day and you happen to be there when they're like they've hit their day of all of the uncomfortableness that they haven't felt in a long time too, just like we have. So compassion and love, I'm so glad you brought that up because I don't think we get reminded enough. As much as Shanda and I say it,
Mm.
you've got to keep reminding yourself compassion and love for yourself and others.
Right. Yeah, it's like it's what puts out fires, literally. If you have fires in your life, in any area of your life, it's only the invitation to bring more love to that relationship, to that experience, whatever that is. And I know that again, that is can be a hard pill to swallow, but our biggest challenges are exactly that. They're the invitation to heal those wounds, to heal those experiences and relationships through love, right? It's like the antidote to everything. You can't go wrong as if you have curiosity and you come from a place of love, I really don't think you can go wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you're in that space, if there's some uncomfortable, that just means you've found another aspect, another layer that you're ready to go forward with. I mean,
Yeah.
it's life is a learning process, and we get to experience the joy in it and the moments of that doesn't feel good. So, what do I do so I can feel that joy again, that
Yeah.
love, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And, it's like we never know, like Carla was saying, we never really know what the other person is going through in the run of a day. Maybe they're in a really hard time. Maybe they just got really bad news. And so, even more of a reason to just hold that space for that person and just say, like, hey, this isn't about me, it's about them. And I'm going to choose to step into love because clearly this person needs it here today. You know what I mean? It's like being able to shift things that could have the potential to, I'll say, derail or affect us or, take us into some negative patterns or thinking, taking that and just keeping it in the light, right? Really keeping it in the light. And if it's depending on the relationship, sometimes you can actually talk about it with that person right then and there. Other times it wouldn't be appropriate, it probably wouldn't be the best idea where it would be more of like an internal dialogue with yourself, reminding yourself that nothing has gone wrong. You didn't do anything. This is about them. But I read something beautiful the other day around how, like, what love is trying to teach us. Like, love is our inherent way of being, right? It's how we're brought into this world and it is our natural operating system. And then we have the illusion of ego, which is anything from like jealousy and judgment and everything else, right? Comparison and all that. But love teaches us to not judge people, to not make people wrong, but to have the empathy and compassion to want to support those people who are going through those difficult times, as opposed to thinking how they should be, wishing that things were different, wanting them to act a different way or show up a different way. So instead of judging them and berating them, you get to be part of their solution maybe and offer your love to them in some way.
Right. That's beautiful. And a reminder to you all, I do subconscious healing stuff that more than 90% of what's going on in the moment, we all dump. So you
Mm,
got your 10%, they got their 10%, and that is where the interaction has come in. And when you do what Shanda's saying with the love and just making it like that, it makes such a difference because we don't know what we missed. We don't know what they missed, what, like
Yeah.
Shanda's going on in their head. And if we continuously choose the they did this to us, then we are always only going to see what people did to us.
Yeah.
It's making a choice of what we hold on to.
Yeah. And I believe too, I mean, you may agree or may disagree, and either way is fine, but when we're operating from those 10%, it's like we're operating from our illusions. We're not
Yes.
operating from love. So, red flag would be anytime you're feeling a heavy, negative, undesirable feeling, you're operating out of your illusion, right? And that's an invitation once again, step back into love. Keep coming
Right.
home to love. That is, I believe, I swear I believe it to my core that that is our purpose here, is to choose love every moment of every day as much as we possibly can. Even when we stray, remember to come back to it.
Yes. Love for ourselves and love for others.
Yeah,
And and if for some reason that doesn't feel right, to sit down and look at what do you believe love is?
right,
Because our illusions with love sometimes are what's keeping us in that.
right,
So that's why I brought up how much we dump off, because the subconscious mind, when we, especially when we're kids, finds what's safe, what's not. That's its only job. We've talked about it, to keep you safe. And so if it makes something dangerous, including love,
right,
it at some point was keeping you safe, and now look at it, because if you come to love and always look at that in your love myself, love other people, life is so much more joyous. And those uncomfortable moments, you're like, okay, I'm going to step through this no matter
yeah.
what somebody else's reaction is, because I'm going to love myself on the other side.
That's right. And like I'm really glad that you brought up what you did about like the distinction of love. The love that Carl and I are talking about here today is the love that is that connection to that which is greater, the connection to spirit, God, source, oneness, whatever you call that, whatever you feel in your heart. It's that the love that I'm referring to is the part of us that is in all of us, in everything, that is the thing that connects us together. We are all cut from the same cloth. I don't care if you're from that quadrant or this quadrant and you're that color and you have that pattern, and that none of that matters. It's that love, that connection, that oneness, that unity that brings every single thing together, not just people, thing,
Right.
every living thing
Yes.
together. Yeah. Sorry, got a
Oh,
little passionate there.
no, I love that. I love that. And that's one of the reasons I brought it up, because when I first started doing what I do, I was told don't bring up love, because there are people whose beliefs in what love is very, so I thought it was important to bring it up.
Mhm.
And Shanda's exactly right. I mean, if you've ever given birth and the first time you hold and see your child, I mean, if you didn't know what love was, that moment shows you exactly the real connection, because you feel that connection to the baby and the beautiful creation miracle that your child is.
Mhm.
And that's why I bring it up, because that's, and some people just say I love you or all that, and you get confused. So as we're talking about this, I love that Shanda's like that. It's that connection.
Yeah.
That's why Shanda goes for her walks, is that connection, that love of nature, the love of the earth. It all goes together,
Yeah.
and we all intertwine, as long as we see that and we're not just this one separate thing.
Yeah, that's the illusion, is thinking that we're separate, that we're not part of. And that is how we're led astray. It's coming back to that love, and there is nothing that you need to do, think, or say either. It's already there. It's just a given. You already are, right? It doesn't need to be earned. It's just you you just get to trust that it is the truth, and know that it is the truth for everybody. Nobody's less than, nobody's more than. We are all equal because we're all the same.
Right, right, right. And that's where that, when we try to, as I'm thinking about it, we're trying to fit in because we feel like
Mm,
we're different and separated. And this is where that comes in. We are all different and separated, but we're all connected. And
yeah,
that's that beauty of love.
right. Yeah. And that's the cool thing too, is that how wonderful is it that we get to be as eccentric and unique and different and eclectic and whatever other word you want to put in there as we truly are, and yet still without a doubt know that we're still the same, right? Like how cool is that? I just think it's really, really special. This is also something I feel like that we could really keep going on about. This is a very loaded and deeply passionate topic for myself, and I think it is for you too, Carla.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but I'm wondering if there's any other, words of wisdom or even tools or modalities for people to kind of step into to try to tap into this oneness, this unity, this connection.
Right. Right. And I would absolutely, I know I always go back to journaling, but if you're feeling very separate and different, is this something where it's your authentic self coming out in a way that you haven't allowed it before? Or is it you're trying to keep yourself safe so you
Mm.
feel disconnected? You know, it never hurts to like just free write and just go when those things come up and really, where is this coming from? Is this some point of view I have? Is this, somebody said something to me and I've made it where I have to be disconnected to be safe.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful and such a good point too. And for people who maybe don't enjoy journaling, I'll just throw it out there, maybe try some meditation,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Or for people who maybe even both of those tools or modalities seem like too much, then just connecting with your breath will automatically bring you into your body, which will connect you to your heart. And if you're willing to receive and listen, you may even hear or feel a connection to that which is greater than us, this big love and spiritual connection that we all have. So, I mean, that said, is there anything else, Carla, that you'd like to add to this conversation today?
No, just like as we were saying about the uncomfortableness, realize that we're all heading to that spot of that connection
Yeah.
with what is greater than us. And I think that's where we lose our thought about where we're going. When we arrived, like we thought, it's just more and more of unfolding of getting that connection with that is greater than we are. And
Yeah.
it's just a journey and finding those little pieces that you've hidden of yourself that you've not allowed to connect. And that's what the uncomfortable is. It's beautiful. It's not bad.
Hmm. Yeah. That's it. That's what I wanted to kind of finish with too, is that please remember everybody who's listening here. Um, there will be moments when we are uncomfortable, when we feel things we don't want to feel, when we think things we don't want to think, and it's okay. Nothing has gone wrong. You are human and it's okay. And the way back is through love, always and forever through love. So, with that said, so much love to all of you here today. Thank you so much for tuning into our channel From Head to Heart and Home with Carla and I. We're always so grateful to have you drop into our space and listen to what it is that we want to share with you, whatever message it might be of the day. If you enjoyed our conversation, then we would always encourage you to subscribe by clicking the button below so that you can get our notifications. Also, feel free to share this episode with any of your friends and family who may need to hear this message today. And last but not least, thank you so much. And we hope to see you next week. Bye for now.